In 1982, a fantasy book was published advertising a treasure hunt. Readers soon realized the hunt was real, prompting a nationwide search for solutions to the clues presented. Today we discuss the mystery known as The Secret. This is Red Web. Welcome back. It's Monday. Fredo, you know what that means. We got another unsolved mystery on our hands. I'm Trevor Collins. That's Alfredo Diaz. And this is The Secret.
Dude, this sounds awesome. Wait, are you kidding me? Like, is this what we're diving into today?
I'm super excited about this one.
This sounds so cool.
Yeah, this is going to be, we do this all the time now. We push the boundaries on what topics we cover.
Yeah.
Because we're mystery enthusiasts. We want to get in there. But
also,
this one,
we like the variety.
Oh, we like a little bit of variety. And this is super interesting because, Christian and I talked about this one for a long time. This one has updates as recent as 2019. And we were like, yeah. And so we were like, do we want to cover this one in a traditional episode like this? Or do we want to kind of explore this one as a video, like a series, because of the nature of what this mystery is? So yeah, we're covering it here now, but I'm just throwing out the feelers. Someday, when things start to calm down in the world, maybe we'll get out there and start searching for some treasure.
Look, I'm down to lead the task force.
Oh.
I'm saying this prematurely. I'm down to lead the task force.
Note this down, Christian.
You're being very delicate with your words.
For a project like this.
Wait, do you need a lawyer present?
I might need a write-up. So it was just this fantasy novel.
Yeah.
And I guess on the back or something like that? Or where was this whole... How was this outlined and where was it outlined in the book?
Yeah. So we'll break it down. So this is a 1982 book by Byron Preiss. It was published. It's called The Secret. So when you open this book, it looks and begins very much like any other fantasy novel that you might pick off the shelf. But instead, this book contains a treasure hunt for 12 precious gems. And I'm going to quote the beginning of the book a little bit for you so you can get immersed. Quote, "Welcome. We've been expecting you. You are about to embark on a fantastic adventure, a quest for 12 treasures, over $10,000 in precious jewels. They may be hidden in your city or your local park or even in your own backyard. You might even figure out one of their hiding places without leaving your house." Now that gets me excited because sometimes the sun is scary.
Oh, yeah. The outdoor, the sun's beating down on you, start sweating, feel real gross. Got to run back inside, hit that AC. But
real brittle people out here.
I got soft skin.
I'm moisturized.
Okay. I can't wait to see what opportunities that you have to earn some of this treasure just by staying at home.
So what he's probably implying is that some of these clues can be deciphered from the comfort of your own home. And we'll kind of go into how he lays out the clues and everything.
Awesome.
It's very cool.
And so this has, maybe we just say it for later. This hasn't been solved yet?
Some have been solved, right? There are 12 gems, which there are then 12 little hunts.
What?
Some have been solved. We'll talk about some of those. Some have a lot of legwork already done, and then some are much more up in the air.
So there's evidence of this gem has been located.
Oh yeah, this is 100% this exists.
How have I not heard of this?
Yeah, really?
This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, this is 100%. This is real, legit, because some have been found and the gems have been solved. Yeah, it's really cool. But before we get too far, I want to talk about the inspo, how this came about. So the author Preiss was inspired by the success of the book called Masquerade, and this book was a picture book by Kit Williams. It included an elaborate puzzle hidden in paintings that led to an acrostic. And just what an acrostic is per Wikipedia, it's a poem or other composition of writing where the first letter or some letter in each line basically spells out a word, and that then is a message or it's an alphabet or something. Basically, there's an encrypted message in a piece of writing. Anyway, once that acrostic is solved, it told the solver of the location of a buried 18-karat gold rabbit pendant, and that pendant was found in 1982, 3 years after the book was published. So this inspired Byron Preiss to do his own kind of treasure hunt, and that's where these gems come into play. So The Secret, which is the book we're talking about, greatly expanded upon the ideas of The Masquerade. It featured a team of artists. Price created the secret, and he then buried 12 gemstones. Did he bury the gemstones or the keys?
I would assume it'd be.
It was the keys because
That's smart.
It's the keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Get those keys custom made too. Look so cool. This is some like Ready Player One type stuff. This
really
is amazing.
It really
dude.
is.
Holy hell.
So Price, the author, was inspired by this book. He built on the kind of straightforward puzzle of the book he was inspired. So he builds out this idea of the fair people. And I'll kind of get into what that is here in a second. But that's the lore that we explore through the fantasy novel here. And he works with artists to develop paintings, and he creates some verses.
Oh, so there's still like an actual story here. And
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit like it's not just like, okay, hey, surprise, go hunt for these gems.
Right.
There's like a little bit of lore and backstory. So you can this is the coolest thing ever.
It really is.
What the hell?
It combines cryptids with treasure hunts, with online mysteries. It combines a little bit of everything we've done on this podcast all into some like actual real world thing. It's really cool. And I keep saying that, but it is.
How people not like talk about how amazing this is? Like, it doesn't make any sense. This is
I don't know. Maybe we're going to spark a fire, wildfire here. So as I mentioned, we have 12 paintings and we have 12 verses. It's up for the readers to kind of combine which verse goes with which painting and use the visual clues with the written clues to then find the city and therefore the park or the destination within the city that these are located. You then dig, you find a key, you send that key to him or now his family because he has since passed on, but you send it to his family.
What a cool legacy
the family
to leave
will
behind.
procure the gem to you. It's really dope.
So the family, oh my God. Okay, yeah, so the families have the gem and you just have to turn the key. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder like how they deal with like fraud or imitations or whatnot. I guess if they're all different design keys.
I think,
right, you kind of
there are photographs, there are Polaroids that are of these locations. Only he knew the exact location, but you can basically confirm if the key is valid.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's evidence there, like he has photos of what they look like or whatever.
So something like this, exactly right. You have different keys, you have photographs of those keys, and so that way someone goes, look, I have this key, it looks just like the other one, so that must be it. It's like, well, no, they're all different. But I'd be very interested to know the location of these keys, because who's to say you didn't just bury it somewhere and then they built like an apartment complex on top of it.
Exactly. That's a really good point, because especially now, there's so much of the world is in development.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, he talks about parks. And I think that's why he mostly targeted parks, pieces of land that aren't going to be built on. They're more protected. They're green spaces.
True, yeah.
Which then is also, we'll talk about this later too, that kind of creates some wrinkles where can you go just digging in parks nowadays? Not as easily as you could maybe a few decades ago when this started. You need more permissions, etc. But yeah, let's dive into some of the lore though, and that kind of focuses in the location. So this comes back to the fair people. That's what this story is kind of about. And the fair people, they include fairies, goblins, leprechauns, elves, etc. And they were essentially, per this story, forced out of their homes in the old world by man capitalized M, humankind.
What the hell?
And they then, these fair people, immigrated to North America, or aka the New World, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought with them the 12 Wonderstones. The Elvish people were the ones who created the casks that contained these stones. And then with the arrival of man from the Old World to the New World, they once again, these fair people, hid once more. The themes of The Secret tend to revolve around immigration and environmentalism, topics that are still very hot to this day. And essentially, to figure out where these casks are buried, you got to combine what you learn from the lore of each nation of these fair people combined with these paintings. There are 12 gemstones, and they are all representative of the birth month stones, or they're the same as the birth month stones.
Right.
So some of them look similar. So in order to decipher which is which, you got to look at the paintings. There's also birth month flowers and clock hands in some of these paintings to indicate which month it is. So instead of like there's a blue zircon and a sapphire, which at a glance can look similar. In order to kind of delineate those, they go, no, this is September, so it's the 9th month, or this is December, so it's the 12th month. Or they'll put the birth month flower in there, so that way it helps focus you in on which of the 12 that is being referenced. And the reason why 12 is important is not only because there are 12 months, but due to the lore, apparently there are 13 nations that the fair people hail from, and 12 of them each have a stone representative of them.
Oh, is one like an evil, you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like the Fire Nation of the group.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Maybe Avatar plagiarized.
Maybe we've stumbled onto something even bigger and better.
even deeper. What I like so much about this too is like, this is the geek in me. I'm like kind of geeking out a little bit because this is very reminiscent of George R.R. Martin's lore behind the Children of the Forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they came over to Westeros and then the first men came over and then like this whole, I'm very much distilling this. And then the first men in the Children of the Forest, they were like, we get the trees, you get everything else. And then blah, 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 flash forward to where the show is. And
it's just like there's so much more depth to this than I thought there would be.
Yeah.
One, it's just awesome and cool in general. A fantastic like mystery, but it just there's layers to it that I just really, really enjoy.
Do you want to expand on those?
I mean, just the layers being that there's a whole lore behind this, right?
The story.
It isn't just like a surprise, like, hey, there's a treasure hunt. It's like, no, there are. You actually have to invest into the story, and this like, this whole like mythical world, these creatures and their background in order to even attempt to start going on this hunt, right?
Yeah,
like
you need to indulge in the fantasy layer of this world. He's applying a fantasy over top of everything we're familiar with.
Yeah, and it's just like there's just different layers, which means there's different places in which people in the real world can sit within those layers, right? Like you could be one of the people that want a treasure hunt, or you can be one of those people that just go, I'm not going to go on this wild goose chase, this treasure hunt, but I do enjoy like the lore and the story.
Yeah.
Like I could totally see that there being communities out there that like, are fans of this story and everything.
Some Lord of the Rings style, fans. Yeah. But that's kind of the background, the lore that kind of encapsulates all these clues. So again, as I mentioned, people needed to pair up the verse, 1 of 12, with the paintings, 1 of 12. And from that, you would get visual clues as well as, I guess, word clues on where this was buried somewhere in North America. And once you found the spot, there would be a ceramic key in a plexiglass container buried not super deep. He mentioned that it was usually about 3 feet underground that it would be buried, so it wasn't super difficult to find. The deeper you go, the more impossible it is that you're going to find it.
Exactly. Yeah, 3 feet is like, that's a good chunk, right? Or most likely a dog won't easily dig it up.
Right. You know, they won't accidentally find it. But the other thing that I realized, I was like, since you can't go digging around just like holes, like Shia LaBeouf and holes.
Yeah, exactly.
You also, I was like, well, what about a metal detector? The fact that it's ceramic and plexiglass and all that stuff, you can't just go beep, 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 beep. Here it is.
It is covered in plexiglass.
Yeah. So anyway, you take these keys once you find them and it will open a safety deposit box that belongs to Price. And that would then contain a gemstone. And the book wrote that total, these gemstones were worth $10,000. But I imagine that they're worth more today. They must be relatively small for 12 stones to add up, but that's, not an insignificant amount of money.
No, not at all.
Fun little reward for a little treasure hunt.
Right? Like you just kind of like read the book, invest some time into it. If you got a little hunt. I mean, like this would be so cool to do like in college when I have more time and I'm just like, it's like, oh, sweet, this is fun. This is something I get to do for the summer with my friends. And hey, we get a little bit of money out of it, right? Even if you get like
if you can solve it.
Yeah, if you can solve it, if you can, right? You get a gem, maybe it's like $2,000 or something like that nowadays. And it's just like, that's pretty good. That's good money. Right? We go to Disneyland or something.
Right. Well, I mean, I'd blow it immediately on Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like, and it all sounds very straightforward. And the fact that some have been found, one was found within the year. So it makes it seem very simple, very doable, but a lot of these clues are very esoteric. You have to know the place, you have to know, let's say, Chicago very well.
Yeah.
The stories of Chicago, the sights of Chicago, the sounds of Chicago. And some are a little bit more abstract, so there's a lot of interpretation involved too.
One was found within the year?
One was found within the first year of this going live. And we'll kind of talk about like, right now we're talking about the book. We'll talk about how some of these were found, how those paths unfolded, what those clues look like. And then we'll talk about, since there's no real theories involved because this is established, we'll talk about the theories as far as where the undiscovered ones are, how far those are along in their journey of discovery. and all the communities in play that are still out there online to this day, trying to pull all the clues together and trying to find these gems.
Yeah, my big concern with doing something so cool like that is just to have the key demolished because of just construction, or just someone randomly coming across it and going, huh,
this is
weird.
trash. Yeah.
Throw it away.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, even us, if we were to find something like that, we'd go, whoa, this is cool. This is awesome. Like, this must be something. But then, like, to really, I mean, imagine if we didn't have our social media reach, right? It's like, how do you just tweet out to your high school friends that you never talk to anymore of like, hey, I have this thing. Does anyone know what this is?
Right.
Like, how do you even, you don't go to the bank and go, what's this key?
Exactly. Especially in the 80s. So
yeah,
you either know what you're looking for and you have it and you do the thing, or like you mentioned, you're a developer, you're working on a new walkway in a park, and then suddenly you stumble across this box and you're just like, well, this is strange. Maybe it's some kid's time capsule. Right. What's in it? Okay, trash, or maybe a collectible or something. Like, I don't know. But the book states, as I mentioned, that typically it's no further than 3 feet down, but more so, it's never in a dangerous location. It's never in a flower bed or a cemetery, anything like that would be destructive or disrespectful.
I mean, yeah, the book itself is big on like the environment and all those huge topics. So it would be really weird to just be like, all right, so it's in someone's grave.
Oh, what's interesting here, I forgot about this. What's interesting too is once you think you have found the location, instead of just like willfully digging around to go find this thing, what you can do is fill out the form in the back of the book to then message the publisher to say like, hey, I think I found it. Here's the location I'm at. Is this close or is this accurate?
That is so smart.
Yeah. And then they can be like, okay, yeah, you found it, or no, you did not find it. Or, you know, they're not going to guide you from there.
Right, exactly.
They're going to approve or deny what you think you found.
Yeah, the hot and cold situation.
Yeah.
You're warm.
Yeah.
And then so you just go, all right, it's somewhere here. Or you go, oh, you're cold. Or just straight up just like, no, it's not there.
Yeah.
That's so smart. That's very, very smart. Also, to like pass this down from generation to generation, like that's a lot of trust that your kids and their kids are just not going to be like, this is stupid.
Right. It's immediately transgenerational. And and I think it's like a really unique take on fantasy storytelling, because it's almost like the fourth dimension of this novel is you getting out into the world and experiencing. It takes you on a sight tour of various cities, which I think is very cool. It's very immersive. But the last couple things, just with regards to the book itself, it wasn't particularly successful. And so in order to make money on it as a product, they did publish it in Japan as well to recoup some of these losses. The Japanese edition includes some hints, which is why I wanted to mention that. And that kind of helps elucidate further some of the clues.
That's smart of them from a business aspect. Right. It's just like, that's the other part of this too, where it's just like, okay, this is very unique, very interesting, but I don't see it being like widely appealing for a lot of people, right? Some people go, oh, it's like a little treasure hunt book. Like,
it's very niche.
I don't got time for it, or I don't care about it. Like, yeah, it's very niche. And so that's such a smart business move to go, okay, we're going to make, it's interesting that they made a version overseas in Japan, but I guess it would be scummier to just be like, here's a second edition. Here's edition 2.
Right.
It has more hints. You know what I mean?
I'm sure they're like, it's been tapped here. Maybe this is a lore that the Japanese audience might enjoy.
Be able to get behind. You can test the waters overseas, right? Because different countries, like there's some movies in the U.S. that do terrible but do amazing overseas. Transformers, Jurassic Park, Venom, but like, why not test that with this novel as well? And then, dropping in little hints, man. Like, that's so cool.
Encourage people to buy into it, give it a little bit of a launch bed in a new nation, and then see what happens. But ultimately, regardless of the business of it, it certainly has a very strong cult following, that there are online communities to this day that are very hot and constantly talking about it. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to mention, just the last thing on this book, that I found that was very interesting, because it is pre-social media. It's almost pre-internet. I find it very interesting that it's engaging with its community, because in the book, there is a section asking for sightings of the fair people fan art of these fair people because they are essentially cryptids, right? They're fantastic creatures and people, elves and leprechauns, etc. Now, the intent was to make a second book out of these sightings and out of this fan art. That never happened, but it still engaged the community in a way that was very direct that you didn't typically see out of novels. I mean, of course, it's not the only time that that's happened, but it is interesting because it's very much like putting out the feelers on Reddit or Twitter and saying like, hey, ask us anything. It feels very much like that. But yeah, with the background of the book out of the way, we can talk about maybe some of the found gems or some of the found keys that led to the gems and how that path kind of unfolded, what that looked like, because that can inform how we tackle the ones that are still yet to be found.
Yeah. I feel like if we were to find one, it'd be one of the coolest moments in our lives that only like 100 people would think is equally as cool. You know what I mean?
This is like winning the lottery, but only
it's like
so many people will
it's like 50 people that are actually like in a group that have been a part of this this group and this whole community for some time, and then like the other 50 people that we told about and they were like, that's so awesome. And, right. Like, I don't know, like it's not like, won the lottery. It's so cool.
Right. Like, what's that new sport now? I mean, it's not new, but it's starting to pick up steam. It's like, oh, I just won the world finals in slap ball or something. You're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, what is, exactly. I found this like hidden key has been hidden for 20 years. Okay. It just sounds
like a third grader maybe buried a key in an art project.
Yep.
Yeah. Or like when I played Can Jam and I hit the slit twice. I'm like, yeah. And everyone's like, I don't know what that is. But
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you did it.
You did it. Anyway, but
I mean, for what it's worth, 10,000 adjusted for inflation is a little over 28 grand today.
Woo! I'm gonna find these gems.
Helps for a down payment on a house. Yeah, that's
the way you said. Gonna get that house. So yeah, let's talk about it. So like I mentioned, the first key was found only 1 year after the book's release by a group of students in Chicago, Illinois.
Yep, there you go.
Exactly, dude.
I'm telling you,
gut check.
Called that.
Okay, Christian, write this down. We're gonna need a gut check pin.
Gut check pin, you got it.
Fredo, man, always with the instincts.
That's a summer adventure, just waiting for like high school and college kids, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody in this group, we're all 19. It was a group of friends.
Oh,
I might
so cool,
ruin.
Man.
Yeah, it is. I might ruin some of the pronunciation, so forgive me, Eric. But we have Eric Gassiorowski, Rob Rodell, and David James, who found it in Grant Park, as I mentioned, in Chicago, Illinois. All 19 years old. The fifth painting was the one that they used. It was nicknamed Castle Hat, just based on how it looked. And we'll show you here, Alfredo, what the painting looked like. And we'll also post some of these paintings on our Twitter page, etc., for those who want to check those out. We'll also give you the resources, I'll mention them later, that have all this stuff posted if you want to see it all in one location. But yeah, the fifth painting, nicknamed Castle Hat, features someone with an emerald earring. There are a bunch of visual clues within it that are all super nuanced. I don't want to dive into the hyper details, but basically they are visual clues that led people to the water tower in Chicago, Illinois. There is a silhouette of statues from the Bowman statue that is actually located at the entrance of Grant Park on Congress Drive. So this really started to hyper-focus people in on this location.
There is the painting.
Damn.
Very cool, very abstract.
That's it's just like it's
pointy
like
ears, big nose, big mouth, maybe one of the fair people.
Looks like maybe one of the fair people. It is like a shoulder up shot, and it's kind of like it has like a
hat with a castle on
maybe
it.
like a leather, like a headpiece that's colored, kind of like greenish emerald, and there's like so many intricate little things. There's like a castle on his head, and then there's things that are just hanging off the castle, up down to his ears, and it's just one of those things where you look at it and you go, wow, that's an interesting like picture painting, and then I'm sure every little detail has some sort of meaning,
right? Like he's got some moles under his eye. It does the number and placement of those matter? But yeah, now we're showing Fredo this. You see, there's a windmill that is the water tower, but with blades added to it. Here's the silhouette of a horse, etc.
Yeah. So is that the water tower in Chicago?
Yes.
It looks like the windmill but the windmill and the illustration just looks more elaborate and changes to it. But like, I mean, if you've seen that place, it'll look similar. And then I guess this is just I don't know. In the illustration, there's like a I don't know what that is.
So this is the Bowman statue here.
There's like
it's like a man on a horse pointing.
Yeah, but on the illustration, it's like I don't know where that's located on the illustration, but I guess it's just. It
was on one of the parapets of the castle, if that's the right use of that word. It's up here.
Oh yeah, there it is. Interesting, and yeah, it's one of the statues in the city. That's so cool.
It's all these buried clues that if you look at the painting as a whole, you're like, that's very interesting, a little abstract. But anything in that painting could be a clue. And I know this is a highly visual piece. So again, Task Force, Red Web Pod on Twitter. You can also Google this if you prefer.
I'm sure I poorly described that, but I was just
no, there's just a lot of detail.
All the detail. But yet at the same time, you can really break it down and simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what those kids did, man. That's so cool. Bunch of 3 19-year-olds that were just like, hey, let's go chase the treasure of this novel, and then they found it. How sick is that?
That's wild. I'm sure they looked at so again, there's 12 paintings and 12 verses, and so there isn't really an obvious way to connect which painting with which verse. So there could be some trial and error. There could be some luck. There could be some, I picked up on this part of the painting and this part of this verse, and I know very strongly that those correlate to this city. And so regardless of how they did it, they managed to match the 12th verse with this 5th painting, Castle Hat. The painting took him to Grant Park, and then the verse took him to a specific spot in Grant Park, and I'll break down how they figured that out here. So here's one line from the verse, quote, "Where M and B are set in stone and Congress R is known." So Congress, obviously referring to the street that statue is on. So from this line, Eric and his friends found this at Grant Park, where M and B translated to Mozart and Beethoven, whose names were carved in the Symphony Center, because this verse refers to M and B being etched in stone. There's also a railroad track below this area, and that's probably where R is known. Oh. Congress being Congress Drive, where the entrance to Grant Park is.
Yep.
Another line says, quote, "L sits and left, beyond his shoulder is the fair folks' treasure holder." So from this, they were able to decipher that the cask was past the statue of Abraham Lincoln, aka L, where they could see the next clue. The next clue being, quote, "The end of 10 by 13 is your clue." And from this, they saw that there was a path, and down this path, there was trees on either side. There actually was 10 trees on one side and 13 trees on the other.
Man, that's so sick.
Could you imagine finding this?
Could you imagine just going deeper and deeper and going, this is that. Oh my God,
that
that's
would
this.
Be so cool.
And then you're talking, and then you, come on, man. You walk into a damn room.
Could you imagine how giddy you would be?
I would. I'd be losing my mind.
You see M and B are etched in stone. Okay. It says Mozart and Beethoven. And then, oh man. And then the 13 and the 10 trees. I'm like.
And then imagine the trees lining up perfectly too. It's just like, oh.
Dude,
wow.
I'm freaking out on behalf of these folks from the 80s, dude. Like, I'm just living their life. Yeah. And then the last one. So now they've gone down the edge of the path and they said, this is where the clue lies. So the last line they looked at was, "Seek the sounds of rumble, brush, and music. Hush." Basically, listen for your environment and be quiet. Just listen. And from that, they said at the end of the path of the trees, they could hear the rumble of the train. They also figured that brush and music might be because of the Art Institute and the music of the Petrillo band shell that were nearby. And so from all of this combined, they got to the end of the verse. They said, okay, this must be at least very close to where this treasure is buried. But even with this specific area figured out, the group struggled with many dig holes to figure out where this was. They even asked Price for help, who only sent them a picture of the filled-in hole without context for the location. So he was saying, yeah, basically you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
I'm not showing you where it is, but I'm showing you that, yes, it does exist.
Yeah, it's in the right, you're in the right spot. Good luck digging.
Right. So after digging basically a very large hole, yada, 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 they managed to find the cask. Their shovel hit it and slipped on it, and they said, oh, this is it. They pull out the key, they sent it to Price, and they were awarded with an emerald, as you can imagine, from the painting.
So damn cool.
It's very cool.
That is sick.
But yeah, that was a year after this all kicked off, and it wasn't until 2004 that the second key was discovered actually still in the Midwest in Cleveland, Ohio.
I love that, like, you know, a decent amount of time later, people still looking for the treasure, still into the lore, reading the book, trying to figure things out, are rewarded with the discovery of another key. So it's just like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, obviously there's a decent chance that some of these are still untouched. Some of these are still located in various areas where they were planted. But it's cool that, like, to just see that time jump and to see, okay, another group or another person has discovered the key. Could you imagine being a part of the first group and you're digging and you're like, I have a feeling this is a spot. And then you see like another group of people walk up with a shovel.
You're like, no, it's not here.
It's not here.
We searched everywhere.
Or you just go
on.
Dig, 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 dig.
I'm sorry.
Start using your hands. Start using your hands.
Hands, shovels, feet, whatever you need.
Dude,
that just reminds me of the scene in Holes that cracks me up every time. It's with the grandfather and the daughter's digging, the one who runs the Holes camp in the modern time, and she's like, I'm tired of digging, Grandpappy. He goes, well, that's too damn bad. Like, the makeup is just horrendous, and it's just the delivery. But yeah, so they dug around for a while and they found it. Now, between finding it and the second one being found, a whole kind of group, the Quest for Treasures online forums developed a group of members that were looking for these other keys. Now, I imagine there must be in the back of their minds for that 15 plus years. What if the first key was a plant? What if that was just to validate the rest of the treasure hunt, but the rest was a farce? What if only one was real, that one was found within a year to kind of boost the sales of this book, and then the rest is just fake? But the fact that one was found in 2004 would be like, that would be the ignition for me, that this is 100%, that the rest of these must be out there, and that this group is going to explode.
I didn't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if it isn't actually a treasure hunt and the person just kind of is lying about it?
Yeah.
And
There
then
was
it's
one
just like,
treasure.
oh, look, there was one. And then cut to, the author just handing over a key to a bunch of kids.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We got another one now.
That's a lot of time later that the second key was found.
Right. So yeah, that leaves enough time to like really make you question. But 2004, we have two members from the group Quest for Treasure, those online forums, came forward and had found it. We have Andy Abrams and Brian Zinn. They found it, as I mentioned, in Cleveland, Ohio, specifically the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. So in their particular painting, they found that it was obviously Ohio because hidden in that you could see the shape of Ohio and its respective rivers. So if you knew your state and you knew the geography, you could say, oh, that looks very much like the rivers of this state.
Yeah.
And furthermore, there also seemed to be a lot of reference to Greek culture and famous people in the painting, which then led the solvers to the Greek Cultural Garden, specifically within Ohio, within Cleveland, right? There are also a lot of other detailed hints that can be found if you are so interested. I don't want to outline this one as vividly as the first one.
Yeah.
But if you want to explore the other hints, you can do so in the secret wiki page. But yeah, like the previous cast, the verse gives directions to the location. However, they discover that the verse was meant to be read backwards. So now we have a totally different solve pattern in play.
I love that.
Yeah. And I don't know how you would even know to think about that, because first of all, you have to take the painting, match it to a verse, then you got to know it's backwards in order to solve it.
I mean, I guess that's just throwing everything you can at it, right? Do I do it backwards? What if I play with the letters? What if I play with the word? Like, I don't know.
I guess the reason why they might have come up with this, now this wouldn't necessarily tell me that which verse it was or that the verse had itself to be backwards, but within the painting that they chose to use or that was associated with Ohio, hidden in a stone structure on the left side of that painting was the word backwards. And that was already hard to see because it was hidden in the cracks. It almost looks like when you look at it highlighted, it almost looks like someone wrote out the word backwards using side streets and stuff. So you would really have to be looking for it to know it's in there.
Yeah.
And then you need to know to apply that to the verse. So here you can see very awkwardly written.
Oh.
It just looks like a statue with a bunch of cracks in the stone.
It just looks like cracks
and it's sideways. Again, we'll post this, this photo on our Twitter page.
Again, like you throw the whole kitchen sink at this thing, right? Like look at every detail, like just painstakingly long. Like those cracks would be on the short list, right? I'd be looking at them left, right, upside down, trying to connect them to each other, try and connect them across adjacent to one another. Like I would just try everything.
Yeah. But looking at that painting though,
amazing.
Yeah, it is no wonder it took 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, I mean,
because
it just looks like cracks on stone. You know what I mean? Imagine like having a detailed tree in the background, and
you just be like, that's a tree.
That's a tree, and those are just like the chippings of the bark that are painted in. But no, it's a map. You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah. What's interesting is that obviously you want to look into every detail. I think that's wise, but the first painting, the Chicago one, seems so direct, right? So literal that it might have sent people down the wrong path of like, well, I think you can just apply, if there's a statue in this, look for a statue near you that looks like that. This is probably the first time where people started to really realize, no, there are some pretty niche clues hidden in some of these.
Yeah, and a lot of variations as to like how the clues are placed and how they're discovered, which just makes sense to me, right? Like you don't want there to be a pattern and then allow people to apply that pattern to each individual painting.
Right.
It would just be discovered at a faster rate.
Exactly. Find one, suddenly you just like apply that pattern to everything.
Granted, I'm not as patient as the author, so I might have made them a little bit easier so I could have seen them discovered within my lifetime.
Yeah, you don't want to be like, they're out there somewhere, and no one will find them. Grandpa, who are you talking to? Shut up.
There are more.
There are more. That makes me wonder then, if there are 13 nations of the fair people, but 12 to poetically coincide with the months of the year or what have you, it makes me wonder, once all 12 are found, will there be some sort of macro level 13th Saul? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put all the stones together and you'll have the Infinity Gauntlet. Okay,
I've been what you were putting down.
But here's the thing. Now, applying that kind of ideology that maybe there is some sort of specific big clue once per location. People are thinking, okay, well, we found this backwards thing. It applied to the verse. Maybe backwards applies to the clues within the verse, right? Because the clues in this verse kind of led people, Abrams and Zinn specifically, to this Grecian-styled planter at the end of the Trail of Clues. And they're like, this is the location. We're going to start digging at this planter. Now, it wasn't until Abrams himself decided to dig on the opposite end of the planter that he found the key. And that's why people started to think, okay, well, maybe this backwards applied to more than just the verse. Maybe it applied to the destination itself on the backwards end of the planter.
So many, you know what I mean? Just big brains.
Big brains out there.
Bunch of big brain people chasing a big brain treasure from a big brain author.
Right. Right.
Like,
and there ain't no bigger brains than the task force out there.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm so excited about this particular mystery. We got one more to talk about that was found before we go into the future ones.
If a task force member found one, that'd be amazing.
Oh my God.
We'd be like, we know that person. Promote them within the squad.
They know. Oh my God. That's why I'm excited to talk about the next section, which is like, here are the clues that we've been able to decipher as an audience, as a people so far on the next ones. Because we've got destinations in your backyard where you come from, Fredo. We got destinations from previous mysteries we talked about. We got destinations all up in the place.
All over.
So they might be in your backyard, task force. Christian's nodding his head. He might know where these are. I don't know. Christian, do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know these things?
We'll interrogate this,
don't worry about it.
We'll get in there. We'll get in that mind. Kylo Ren style. All right. Hey everybody, Trevor here with, just a little moment, just between you and me, a nice private conversation where I do all the talking and you listen so politely. And just like in the vein of The Secret, if you listen to my words carefully, you might pick up a clue to where my key is hidden. What does it unlock? My heart. Anyway, I want to talk about some of our sponsors. First of all, ourselves. If you want to listen to this episode, because sometimes it can be hard to wait for those Monday morning 2 to 3 a.m. Central Time uploads. If you want to see or listen to this episode 24 hours early, you can do so. Over at roosterteeth.com, if you get yourself a first membership, we have a plethora of first exclusive shows ready for you, but also everything that we make is at your disposal 24 hours early, including this podcast. You support us directly, all the money goes directly to our company, and it all supports the shows that you watch on our website. But yeah, if you want to listen to Red Web 24 hours early, become a first member, and you can do that today. But with that said, let's talk about some of our sponsors. RedWeb is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Sometimes we all need a little help handling what's going on in our lives, or just help with improving our lives. And when that's the case, therapy is a great tool to work on your emotions and your goals and or just unload. Sometimes we just need that, someone to talk to. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone in person if you don't want. You don't even have to see them on your camera if you don't want. I keep my camera nice, locked, and closed off because I'm bashful. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and it's very fast. You can see your therapist in under 48 hours if you're interested. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback for yourself. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and RedWeb listeners, that's you, Task Force, you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/redweb. That's BetterHelp.com/redweb. This episode of RedWeb is also sponsored by Candid. When you look around the world, there's a specialist for just about everything, right? When your car breaks down, you go to the mechanic. So when you want to straighten your uneven teeth, you go to see the orthodontist. They're the specialists. And that's what sets Candid, the invisible, comfortable, and removable aligners, apart from the rest. While other companies use general dentists, Candid only works with orthodontists. With Candid, the same orthodontist who created your plan is with you from start to finish. You can either book an appointment at a Candid studio near you or take care of everything from the comfort and convenience of your own home. Candid can help you get the straighter, brighter smile you've always wanted. Right now, you can save $75 on your Candid starter kit when you get started from home. Or like I said, you could book an appointment at a Candid studio near you and go today. Go to candidco.com/redweb and use code REDWEB to let them know that we sent you and get those $75 off. That's candidco.com/redweb, and that's code REDWEB. Take advantage of this limited time offer to save $75 on your starter kit, candidco.com/redweb, and use code REDWEB. Now, with that said, let's get right back into the mystery. But yeah, let's talk about 2019, the most recent discovery, and a little bit more controversial than the other ones because of the nature of everything, but let's dive in. So let's talk about Jason Cruitt in 2019, or Crupat. I'm not exactly sure, so apologies, Jason, if you're listening. But in 2019, he found the cask in Boston's Langone Park. We're going to dive into kind of the back and forth on that one, but Cruitt reportedly believed that the cask might have been buried there, but he didn't seek it out until he realized a large-scale construction kind of plan was in place for this park in particular, and he said, okay, well, I don't want this to accidentally be discovered and thrown away or demolished or what have you. So he spoke with the construction workers to say, hey, keep an eye out for this. If you find a key, if you find a box, whatever.
And this was just like a normal person?
This was a regular person. In fact, this guy wasn't a part of any of the online search groups, which is what raised a couple flags within those search groups. They're like, listen, this guy's not one of our community members. So that's one kind of flag for them to say, is this guy legit? I don't think it makes him unlegit, right?
I don't think so at all. Some people just don't want to be, either don't want to be a part of a community, or
don't know.
Just don't know, or just are just way too shy, right? To jump into a community.
It's possible.
And who knows, right? At the end of the day, this is a treasure hunt for money. So
that's true. You don't want to be like
who's to say
clues up.
You don't just throw in an anonymous username, try and grab a bunch of clues from that community, maybe another one, and then apply it to your own knowledge.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. He could be active, but under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
Especially when you think of, like, we covered Cicada 3301. So many people that made it through the final time gate for some of those puzzles were not people that did all of the steps. They group think. They kind of did it together, and then a few people slipped through.
Exactly.
That's digital, so they could kind of finesse it a little bit. I mean, there's some real world clues for that puzzle now, but this one could definitely be exactly like you outlined. I just took everyone else's clues and I went and found the thing.
Yeah.
But another flag that came up that kind of pulled some questions into place was Cruitt reaching out to the TV show, which we've talked about on this show before, Expedition Unknown. So that way he could basically broadcast the finding of this cask in Boston. It was featured on an episode of that television show, and it kind of spurred a lot of attention on this mystery. But because it was televised and because he kind of waited for it to be televised, people started to think, well, is this real or is he going for attention? Who knows?
I don't think so. Maybe that's just because of our background. But if we had an idea of where this was, I mean, we'd record it.
Mm-hmm.
We'd make a video out of it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, why not capitalize on this more than, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's an opportunity right in front of you. Why not make it as big as you? I don't think it's far-fetched for someone to want to make it a spectacle or an event.
Right.
Right.
I mean, this is another 15 years after the second one. So we are decades on in this mystery. Almost 40 years now, right? So, yeah, televise the thing.
Yep.
But here's another last little piece. And I think the other two flags were probably retroactive, kind of looking for reasons to doubt. The real reason why it raised some eyebrows was because the online communities that were searching for this particular key in Boston, they had figured out Boston, but they were all looking at Fenway Park rather than Langone Park. And so that's why they're like, this might be a hoax. And then they kind of, through that lens, said, well, now that the fact that you aren't in our community, the fact that you have a different park, the fact that you televised it, all make us a little cynical as to your ulterior motives.
I completely see where that's coming from.
Yeah, but I'm with you.
I just think that this person wanted to capitalize on this event as much as they could. This is probably, you know, I mean, something like this is a big thing in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is very exciting.
This is my big hobby kind of thing.
Exactly. And I think the flag for me is, if this person knew the location, why didn't they go sooner? Did they get up sooner? I think that's a little weird, right? Like,
maybe waiting for television to say, like,
or it's just like, I think I know where this is. Like, I'm just gonna sit on it. It's a little weird to me because, especially regardless of you being in any community, these are very detailed and intricate and very immersive puzzles, and this is very like taxing chase for this treasure. And so why wouldn't you just want to finish it?
Right. Especially if you know, then the odds of somebody else knowing kind of increase.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would be itchy to go get the thing or to search for it. I wouldn't want to tip anybody else off if I was dead passionate about finding it myself. But
also, damn, I mean, putting a lot of trust in a random construction worker to just...
That's true too.
Right? Like, there's no money that you're putting down on it or anything like that.
It depends on the tale you weave to that construction worker. Hey, you know, when I was younger, an old time capsule was buried here. It's really useless, so I'd like it.
My little toy key.
Right. Who knows? But I forgot about this, and I apologize. This is the real last reason why I think it raised eyebrows, and that's because in 2019, that very same year, there was actually a hoax or a fake that came forward. A French professional treasure hunter joined Quest for Treasure, the online forums there, and they called themselves Meteor, and they claimed that they found the San Francisco cask.
There's one in SF?
There is one in SF, but this one in particular, I think, is a hoax. The San Francisco Park employee confirmed that Meteor, aka Gerald Gay, did find something, but after contacting the original sculptor that created the casks in the first place, they discovered that this was not legitimate, that it must be a hoax, and that the key in SF is still wherever it is.
I mean, damn, there's a lot of big old parks in SF. I can't even imagine.
We'll dive into it. We're almost there. But here's the thing. The fact that there was a essentially confirmed hoax that very same year put people on the defense, and that's why I think it makes some sense to be a little bit more critical.
Yeah.
But I'm still with you. I think that there's a plethora of reasons as to why somebody would want to find this themselves.
That was interesting. They were able to contact the person who created it?
The sculptor, who made the casks.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. In 2005, Byron Price unfortunately passed away during a traffic accident. So that's why it becomes a little bit more difficult to confirm the keys that have yet to be found. And that's why maybe there's a little bit more defense here saying, is this legit? The only person that knows is him. Everyone else has pieces of the answer. Yeah. But coming back to this one here in Boston, you know, we talked about the sculptor being talked to regarding the SF one. The painter, John Jude Palancar, I believe, and the sculptor, Joellen Trilling, both confirmed that the cask that was found by Cruppet was authentic.
Damn.
So
that's all you need.
Dunked on the haters.
Love that.
There are still some people that are diehard thinking it's a hoax, but to me, this very much confirms that this is an authentic key.
If you think that's a hoax, then you have to think that the whole entire thing is a hoax.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, you can't just go like...
You can't be like, we have the clues, you don't. You know what I mean?
But you also can't be like, hey, this person confirmed the previous key, but then it was a fake, and then but also they're confirming that this key is like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to kind of throw a blanket on all that and either believe it's all fake or
Can't pick and choose.
You can't just be like, well, this key makers is just picking sides, and this one's fake, and this one's real, and this one's. It's like, no, it's you either believe it all or you don't.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, regardless of how you want to believe, he did in fact receive the peridot, the gem that was associated with that key from Sandy on the episode that he was featured in Expedition Unknown.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I honestly think that it was really cool of them to make it a bit of a televised event, to bring some attention to it.
Yeah,
like
I want to go watch that.
Right, whether it was attention for himself or not, I think bringing attention to this kind of really interesting mystery, well, I mean, that's what we're doing now, was cool.
And in case you're curious, here's a comparison image to the fake cask that was found in SF compared to the one on the bottom is the one that was found in Chicago.
Interesting. That's actually, inside at least, closer than I would have expected. But you see how the hour hand is pointing to a number. That number corresponds to the month in its stone. So that way it kind of confirms. Fake, much like a talented sculptor would make, but very simple.
Yeah.
The real being much more...
There's like little details in there. I mean, there's ways, right? They've set up a system in which they can confirm if it's fake or not. And that makes sense. To be honest, I thought they would go as far as to make every kind of like box different.
I mean, they might, honestly. We just have at least a photo of that one. But yeah, like the rest are all still buried. So we'll have to see when they're discovered.
Yeah, from my understanding, the real casks all do look similar, except for what Trevor said with the clock hand pointing toward its respective month. But other than that, I think that the exterior all looks the same.
The intricacy is similar.
I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good. I think
but
uniformity kind of helps.
Yeah, but you're matching the stone to the clock.
You know what sucks though, actually, is that if they are very similar, somebody finds it, you have a photo of it now, it makes it a little easier to hoax it.
Yeah,
true.
That's what I was saying.
Very
so
true.
so that's where the sculptor being alive is helpful, because then they can confirm or deny.
Very helpful.
There might be like, I hid my signature under the bottom, or something that you can't know about.
Exactly. I mean, you just throw that into the blueprints or the notes for it, and you just go, this particular box has this edge missing.
What if they glazed their fingerprint into it? Now that's cool. Because you workshop with the clay, and then when you kill it, you might fire it up, but have your fingerprint, and then you glaze over that to protect it. That'd be cool.
I mean, you throw like one very detailed, intricate thing into each individual one, and you're set.
Teeth marks. I bit this.
I mean, that'll work.
To be fair, we don't know that they didn't.
Could you imagine where like a Walk of Fame where they put handprints? Someone like does an open mouthed like face print, and you just see their teeth. Okay, so those are the to kind of get our minds right for the future undiscovered clues. So we've talked about 3 that were found, a little bit of the nuances and differences between each, and how the process is loosely unfolded. Now I want to talk about now 40 years on, there are 9 casts still out there. I want to talk about those, talk about the clues therein. Some have more, some have less, some have kind of other complications with them, making them maybe perhaps unfindable or undiscoverable, because it's been a while, things develop, trees grow, whatever. But yeah, let's dive into some. So before we continue, actually, I do want to say that, as I mentioned, Byron Price passed away in 2005, and his publishing company no longer exists, so it left a lot of people fearful that this would kind of kill the treasure hunt. However, Price's wife, Sandy Mendelsohn, who I mentioned earlier, she retains the gems and will reward anybody who finds the keys. So it still is alive and still is, going to continue.
Within the family.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, and if you, Task Force, are interested in diving into this, there are a couple of online communities that I've mentioned that you can kind of look into, but we have a subreddit, r/12keys, that's 12 keys. It also has a wiki page with proposed solves, a handful of other forums, etc. And then we also have 12, again, for 12, but 12treasures.com, once again with 12, where you can find a podcast, interviews, Facebook groups, etc., regarding the cities in The Secret. But yeah, and the fact that this was on television in 2018 or 2019 kind of helped bring new solvers to the table.
I love that.
So this has been recently rekindled. So now is an amazing time if you're interested to try to dive into this and maybe throw your hat in the ring, see if you can solve it. Maybe one of these locations is very, very near you.
So cool.
But without further ado, let's talk about those cities. Get excited, because some of you are going to be like,
I live there.
I live there right now.
Oh my God.
That's my park. Okay. San Francisco. Boom. Your hometown. We've got Roanoke. We covered that in a mystery, a few weeks ago. Yeah. We have New Orleans, or Nolans, if you prefer. We've got Montreal. We've been there, you and I.
Hey, I've been there a handful of times, yeah.
We've got Charleston. We've got St. Augustine. We've got Houston, not too far from where we record this podcast.
Far.
We've got Milwaukee.
Driving distance.
Another Midwest city, Milwaukee. And, of course, New York City. So those are the cities that are all theorized to be they're the assumed locations. And people are pretty confident.
Places on that list.
And now the leads that I'm going to outline per city can be found and are proposed by The Secret wiki page. Again, thesecret.pbworks.com. If you want to check that out, I encourage you to do so. So let's talk about San Francisco. Your bread and butter, your hometown. Tell me if you recognize any of this stuff. You know what? Houston is close. It's drivable. We can do it. But because you know San Francisco, I feel like we should try that one. Because I feel like you're going to know those clues, those locations. We can hook up with Tim Geddes of Kind of Funny fame.
Dude, yeah, bring Kind of Funny into the mix. Only but for like a 20% cut, maybe, if that.
0% finder's fee, baby.
Yeah.
Or maybe I get to once a month watch a movie in Tim's theater room,
That man's got an amazing theater room.
But yeah, let's talk about San Francisco and the cask therein. So it is very likely that this cask, it's a very big city, as you mentioned, a lot of parks, that this cask is buried in the Golden State Park at the top of the outdoor stairs. Do you know where I'm talking about?
I believe it's Golden Gate. Golden Gate Park.
Golden Gate Park?
It should be Golden
Christian,
Gate.
You just shook him and he is doubtful in that face.
San Francisco Golden Gate Park.
But you are being fact-checked live.
It is indeed Golden Gate Park.
Okay, I'm just saying a number of times I've been to Golden Gate. You said Gold State. Oops. I went, that sounds slightly off. And then I was like, hold on, let me Golden Gate.
There's this very small park just in some small neighborhood. No, this is the Golden State.
This is Golden State.
Golden State. And it's got like a really crappy mural of the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's like a really rough circle of dirt that's it's buried right there.
No, Golden Gate Park is huge.
Yeah,
it spans
it's beautiful.
Many a blocks. It's gigantic. I mean, I did live there for, I'm 32. God, I'm old. 25, 27 years of my life.
Yeah.
Grew up there, and it's a big boy.
Big boy.
Yeah.
Big boy place. But if I say the top of the outdoor stairs, does that kind of narrow you in at all? I obviously have some more here, but I'm just curious if I can put you in the mind.
Of the outdoor stairs. I mean, there's like a little outdoor symphony there.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you some more to go off. I was just curious because I don't know this park as well as you might.
Museum there as well. I mean, there's a handful of structures that have a good chunk of stairs there. Yeah.
So using some of the clues and the paintings involved, again, I'm just delineating straight to the point. It is nearby Strawberry Hill, as a strawberry can be seen in the woman's dress on the painting referring to San Francisco. So that's why people are thinking Strawberry Hill. The stem of the rose in the painting resembles the handrail for that outdoor stairs, and one attempt at digging at the location found nothing, but the cask could very well still be very close to the top of those stairs.
Yeah.
As is made evident by the other found keys, a lot of holes needed to be dug. You can't go metal detecting around there, and I don't know if you can go digging anymore because there's a lot of new rules and laws that are implemented, but
I mean, but you go there in the middle of the night, man. Look, high school, college, Alfredo, you drive out there in the middle of the night. Yeah, I've been out there.
He's like, I'm digging with dynamite. What's up?
I've been out there with Tim, and we're just like, ooh, this is spooky. And we just walk around the park.
Yeah.
Or just the outskirts of the park drinking hot chocolate because we wanted to.
Wild.
Just because we didn't like coffee. I don't know, man. We didn't drink alcohol until we were like 25. So we're just like,
you guys are straight edge with
like,
caffeine.
We're like, ew, coffee tastes gross, but we're like, we still want to go. We're like, oh, we'll get hot chocolate.
What was the? It's not macchiato. I got to get that out of my head. What's
like
the
22-year-old
mocha? You get mocha lattes,
we
which would be like
upgraded to the mocha, and we were like, yeah, adult hot chocolate. We were like,
it's like chocolate milk.
We were like, ooh, we fancy. It's like a little bit of that espresso stuff, but then you got the chocolate that overrides it, so then I don't have to taste it as much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're like 22 doing that.
Oh, how we've all grown. That's adorable. Though.
I'm way more mature now. I'm mature now.
But yeah, okay, so that's where it's at. That's basically the long and short of it. I'm
to
sure.
give just the slightest bit more info since you know the area
please.
so well. Just reading off the wiki, it's extending from the eastern end of Strawberry Hill to the California Academy of Sciences.
Yep, the Academy. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. There's like a museum there. Yeah, the Academy of Sciences. Interesting. I've been there a ton of times.
I feel like there's so many landmarks to go off of that
hell?
It almost feels like it should be easily triangulated, but
yeah, I mean, but it's a big park. Who's to say? Who's like you? There's probably a clue, or I mean, one or two layers that'll help kind of like pinpoint, because I mean, you do have a general sense of the area, but like I don't know, man. I mean, 3 feet down is a decent amount, and who knows if you got to be pretty accurate with your digging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to dig 3 feet down in like normal, compacted, highly trafficked dirt, it's going to take you a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And for the size of the little cask, and if you miss it, you then have to restart that whole. So a lot of the people that are solving, I do want to say, they don't want to just go digging willy-nilly. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to destroy a park. So a lot of people actually, once they figured out the location, they spend a lot of time really trying to figure out where they're going to dig before they do.
Yeah.
And if you're curious, I have the image that is thought to be the San Francisco painting.
Okay, let me see that.
Yeah, see if there's anything in here that kind of jumps out to you as San Francisco. Like, that's a big snake on the front of that dress. I'm curious if there's anything with regard to San Francisco
or anything
that plays
with
into that.
The
flower, the colors, it's very dark with some blue.
I mean, there's just like a rose garden, but I mean, that's gotta be like everywhere. The little watch on the table could represent a couple of like the bigger towers with clocks that we have in the city. I'm just the mountains behind it. Like there's gotta be things within those mountains that have some type of structure to the bridge.
Right, learning from the backwards clue.
Yeah, or the redwoods that we have a little bit further north of SF. Like,
well, there's a bit of a cliff face too in that park, right? That you can come out to and see over the city, see over the bridge.
Yeah, I mean the cliff face could resemble some of the rocks that we have, like a little bit of the cliff sides that we have, and like along the coast.
What about all those moons or all those bubbles up there?
Yeah, no, San Francisco has like 10 moons, so that's getting pretty close to where.
What does that mean?
I mean,
yeah, why'd you say that so casually? What does that mean?
We got 10 moons. Like, what are you, Tatooine over there?
Yeah, you look into the sky, there's 10 moons over there.
Yeah, well,
there's 2 red dots.
Maybe San Francisco's remnant. The moon
there's like
2
there. Like little red dots in the distance behind the red moons, and that's the UFO that usually sits right above.
Right. Now I don't
State
know if I can believe this man. He could say anything now. I don't know. Maybe we go to San Francisco. We start cruising around.
I mean, look,
you
can start looking at that, and you could definitely start trying to place things in different areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely could be things I just want to see, and I just go, okay, that kind of reminds me of like some of the cliff sides along the coast or whatnot. But I'm just like, okay.
I feel like I need to really stare at that cliff face, because with how weird the word backwards was etched into that stone, I think you're right. I think
there's definitely something in there, and it could be as simple as something that represents like, a bridge, or I mean, who knows?
It could even be a route or a street pattern,
exactly,
or it could just be a long crooked arrow that indicates the walking path you need.
It could be as simple as a heart. And
man,
SF is really big. Like we have hearts, like heart art pieces that are all over the city. They're just like the whole theme of like I left my heart in SF, like type thing.
Did you? I think she came with you.
I think it came with me. Look, man, when I saw how much more affordable it is to live in Austin,
you're diehard SF.
My heart's here. I'm good.
It was a big move for you, though.
I was like, it's cheaper to put my heart here.
That's funny.
What about the dragon? Anything dragon related? Because she's got the big old dragon on the front of her.
Oh, that's a dragon. Yeah, it looks like a serpent-esque dragon.
Something is snake,
it is,
reptilian.
But I mean, I can't think of anything like San Francisco related. I mean, we have a big Chinese festival every year, but I mean, like I can't think of anything dragon related that we just kind of have.
It's so cryptic. It could be anything from the number of scales to the number of loops are indicative of something. I mean, that could
exactly right.
Could be a clue.
Or that could be something that's just throwing you off the actual the scales of the dragon or the way the dragon curves. It could not necessarily be about the dragon. That just could be a piece of.
It could also just be a total misdirect, right? Some of the pieces of the castle in Chicago. Here's the thing, and this is what engrosses me so much in this mystery, is that when you look at the solved ones, you go, it's so obvious in hindsight. Once someone has solved it, you go, no, duh.
Yep.
But when you look at the ones that haven't been solved, you're like, I don't know.
I mean, granted, I'm looking at this for less than 2 minutes.
Sure.
But yeah, right. You see, how did no one see that it said backwards along the cracks of the wall? Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at that and I go, I mean, look, I have no idea what's here, but there's definitely something here. Like this isn't just like, I don't know. It's
intentional.
Seems very intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how I just keep looking. Like if you look on we can move on and cut all this.
Oh, you can no, like that.
Please, get in there. Get in there.
On the
oh my God, those aren't even scales.
Letters,
that's a grid.
Yeah, and then like the scales of the dragon are like stones. There's like Roman numerals.
Now we did that.
There's like a yin yang symbol.
Enhance.
We need to do just a bonus so we can really dive into one of these.
Dude, like what is all this stuff mean?
So the scales are like stone blocks,
my God, are those
but the
letters?
stone blocks are different.
Yeah, there's like Roman numerals, letters.
There's like
there's a yin yang.
Oh my God,
the stone blocks are different sizes.
I gotta get out of here.
I mean, honestly,
I need a plane ticket.
You can take it.
You look at the rose too. The rose too could have some sort of like detail within the bud. Like there's very detailed lines and shadowing within that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that is
so
cool.
What the author did, since we're diving into the details here, I want to kind of have this aside. What the author did was he went around the cities and he would take a Polaroid of the location, and then he would take Polaroids of various elements of the city that he wanted included in the paintings. Some of these you can see all the elements from the spot it was buried. Some of them not so much, yet to be determined, right? But that's how he would get these paintings to be done, is he would reach out to artists and say, just include these elements.
Yeah.
As cryptic as you want or as not. So that way all the pieces are out there. The pieces of knowledge are spread out through all the people, but he was the only one that had the locked in answers.
Amazing.
Yeah. But let's jump over to some of the other locations and see how we're doing on that. So like Roanoke's proposed location is near Waterside Theater. The way that this came about is that there's a line in one of the verses that says, quote, "Ride the Man of Oz." And from that, people kind of extrapolated, okay, the author of The Wizard of Oz is Thomas Baum. And there's a ferry named the Thomas Baum Ferry that takes passengers out to Roanoke, the site. And continuing on with that very verse, we have lines, quote, "Under that which may be last touched or first seen standing," end quote. This line could very much likely refer to the tree that we actually talked about in the Roanoke Mystery, the disappearance episode, that had CRO written on it. It was unfinished, but unlike the fence post that said Croatoan, it said CRO.
Yep.
So subsequently, the cask is believed to be where the crew of the play, The Lost Colony, built the CRO tree. So not where the actual tree was or is or what have you, but perhaps where the play's iteration of that tree was put. Very interesting. I see you thinking.
No, I mean just the depth of this whole treasure hunt is.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be really fun to put this together?
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost like old school geocaching.
Yeah, and then just sitting there and talking, like it seemed like he sat by himself to try and put this all together, with obviously like hiring different artists and whatnot, and someone to make the actual product. But it's just, I don't know, man. That's just so interesting and really, really cool. I don't know. Like I'm just so immersed in this right now.
Yeah.
In terms of like the simplicity, yet how complex it all is.
Yeah.
Like it's like that painting, right? With kind of like a verse, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And yet you have so many people just going, haven't quite found out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like the like, I don't know, just the amounts of planning that would have to go into every single word and letter and stroke of like paint is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, for the sake of immersion, let's jump into the next location. We have Charleston. Now, unfortunately, and we kind of talked about this before with your gut check, the Charleston Key is believed to be missing due to extensive construction that has been done in the theorized location, which would be White Point Garden. So, I mean, that's going to befall some of these locations after many decades. It's just bound to happen. The St. Augustine cask is probably, again, this is all distilling the clues, located in the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park. There is a line in one of the verses that says, quote, the first chapter, which also appears at the entrance of the Fountain of Youth. But the exact location, quote, at the base of a tall tree, is under plants that the owners do not want disturbed. So when it comes to that location, whoever owns the plants underneath that tall tree, they're like, nah, I don't really want you digging around there, so it's not worth it for a maybe thing.
Yeah. Dang. I mean, you could
dig sideways.
You could
under
repot the plants.
True. I don't know what kind of plants you got.
I'm sorry, Christian. Is that what you?
No, it's an ingenious solution there.
I mean, and then we look at it and these like giant bushes and like
rare, they could
rare
be
moon blooms or whatever.
Yeah, they could be. I don't know the size of these plants. I'm just saying, like, if I owned that property, I don't know if I had a little bit of money and time, I feel like that'd be a fun project.
I'd be like, you know what? Let's see. See. I own these plants. I might own that key. Let's get that key out of there, and then with the gem, just buy new plants. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be too curious. I guess I don't know the nature of those plants.
Right. There's a lot of the logistics that go into that, but like, I'd be curious. I'd contemplate repotting some plants, Christian.
I'm just imagining trying to go dig there, and they're like, we don't want you to dig that, and they just go, you can repot the plants.
I'm gonna blow you away. You can grow those back. The New Orleans one is proposed to be at the site of the former St. Charles Hotel, and this is where another bit of history kind of interferes. The exact location is unknown since the clues in the verse probably reference how the building was prior to it being demolished.
Yeah.
So really the only thing we would have to go off of now are historic photos of the location, and who knows how many photos there are, and if there's enough to go off of, or if there's the right photos of the right spots of the building. It's hard to say. So that one is kind of up in the air. Another one that's up in the air is the Houston one, close to us. This one's probably located in Herman Park, where an antique train used to be. Now, just like the one in Charleston, this one has kind of befallen construction, and it is theorized that this one is likely never going to be found, or not going to be found anytime soon, because its location is under a walking path. So unless you want to work with the city and dig that up and then dig under it, you're going to be digging up a lot of walk path. And so that one's probably out of commish.
Yeah, you're not going to... There's much easier fish to go after.
Mm-hmm. The Montreal cask doesn't have as much of a specific location as the other ones, but it could be in a couple of locations, namely the Golden Square Mile neighborhood, St. Helen Island, or Notre Dame Island. So if you're out there in Montreal, let us know. Get out there.
That's a lot more broad than the other locations,
very broad.
Though.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, it seems like San Francisco has the most going for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the one I'd go for.
Mm-hmm. The one in Milwaukee seems to be buried near a tree in Lake Park. One of the lines in one of the verses says, quote, ascend the 92 steps. This could refer to the grand staircase at Lake Park. From there, the clues guide you to a spot near a large cement disc, which resembles the millstone that is in one of the paintings. And last but not least, we have the New York cask, which has been theorized to be buried near a tree, once again, near New York Harbor. Now, with regard to this particular one, this might apply to other clues too, but with regard to this particular cask, Price himself revealed that you can see every clue from the painting from the dig spot. that kind of helps because New York is so huge. There's so many landmarks that once you find this spot to dig at this particular tree, boom, 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 whatever clues are in the painting, you can also see from that spot, which is kind of helpful. Price's daughter also revealed that his father passed through Ellis Island, so it could be on Ellis Island in conjunction with it being nearby the harbor. But digging that close to a tree 40 years later, if it has been there for that long, would likely require a specialist like an arborist, so you're not killing a tree on a historic island that, maybe it's buried in the roots now. It's really hard to know. And so you'd need a specialist to go digging around, especially if it's on Ellis Island.
Yeah, that makes that complicated.
Yeah.
I feel like a good chunk of these will only be found if construction comes across it.
Probably.
Even then, it's like the chance that they'll actually see it, right, while they're tearing everything up and using big bulldozers to move large piles of dirt and whatnot. Like, who's to say they'll actually spot it?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, know what to do with it.
Right. I'm sure a lot of them just keep it. Like, I know my dad does some general contract. He does some construction and stuff. And in his younger days, when he was kind of doing the more contracted work, like manipulating the land or what have you, he would uncover like arrowheads. I think once he uncovered a misplaced headstone, and it's like, I guess it's on private property. There's no other headstones here. Do you just kind of keep it as a collectible, like as something cool you found? Do you do you donate it? Like, so I'm sure a lot of these people that work the land in various parks,
that's true.
If they find stuff, they might just kind of like, hey, this was cool. This was a cool thing I found.
Yeah, that's a very cool perspective.
But yeah, I mean, task force, that's the long and short of some of those clues. Obviously, there are the resources I had mentioned. If you're interested in trying to pursue this, I think that'd be really, really cool. Hit us up if you find anything, if you have any theories. But as always, be respectful. These are real locations, and you want to make sure that you have permission before you film, dig, or refill, whatever. Manipulate the land in any of these parks. I think that's what's been interesting about this mystery, is that they are in places that aren't typically built on and demolished and manipulated a lot because they're more protected. But also, it is that protection that kind of prevents you from just willfully searching in the area.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people aren't just going in, digging a bunch of holes, trying to find, right? Like, you just don't have that ability to do so. Like, if you're going to go dig, you have pretty much a shot or two at it.
Mm-hmm. But man, this was one of the ones that we had been super stoked to talk about for a while. There's another mystery that's very similar with an author and a treasure hunt that I think we'll talk about here in the coming weeks or months at some point.
We definitely should.
Because we've been sitting on them prior to even the show launching and prior to quarantine, just because like we were like, these are really cool mysteries that you can, whether you find them or not, it would be really awesome to document the search for one of
location.
Them. Yeah. And hopefully they exist. Hopefully, like you want to believe it. And there's various other treasure hunts out there that may or may not exist. But man, if we could do like a treasure hunting show, that'd be really cool.
Awesome. The locations we could go to.
Yeah.
I mean, what a captivating mystery.
Yeah.
Like, holy hell.
Yeah.
As soon as you threw the hook at me, I was just like, I'm in. I was smiling from ear to ear.
What's more tangible than a treasure hunt?
That's the thing too that I very much like about this. It's like, sure, there's always a little bit of a doubt with anything. Sure. And with this, it was whether or not this was actually real. But there's so many different pieces that come to light. There's so many different corners and so many different, a handful of different people and places and individuals that like reaffirmed a certain thing. Like, I never really questioned anything throughout this whole entire like episode.
There's enough concrete things have come forward, whether it be like you said, people, evidence, whatever.
Lots of twists.
Really solidified.
A handful of turns and like people and trading of hands and whatnot, and it's just like, oh, okay. Like I the whole time felt very comfortable of just like, oh, well, like this is a path that I'm on, and it's not like a fake path that's just gonna bottom out from under me like some of the other mysteries. You know,
it's much like playing Dark Souls, right? Yeah. Where it's very difficult, and when you die, it's built in the way that you know you messed up. So when you don't find the key, you're not left disappointed. Probably going to be disappointed because you didn't find it, but you're not left going, "This is fake. I hate this."
Yeah,
you're just like, "This is just that tough." It's a buried treasure, and it's hidden, and it's meant to be tough. But all the things you need are there. for you to find it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. It gives me a little bit of chills, dude.
It's so cool.
But anyway, this is a perfect time. We're still very much in the back and forth between, we're now recording this show in person, which is a nice little bit of progress. But we have our YouTube channel. And with that comes the expansion of what this show, this Red Web brand can look like. Christian and I are knocking our heads around all the time, talking about what a new series, like a subset, a category of Red Web shows. Yeah, what else we can do, because we really want to explore that YouTube channel and do some visual kind of counters to this podcast in addition to. And one of those has been like going out and tackling these mysteries head on in person, whether it be cryptids or ghosts or supernatural stuff or not, or treasure hunts like this, Fredo.
Treasure hunt, yeah.
You're the man in the field. Yeah. Treasure hunt with a monster behind it.
Man, say cryptids and ghosts. You got damn mind.
This treasure's got a ghost on it. But and so, I want to keep putting those feelers out there, not to make any false promises to you, but to engage you, Task Force, and to see what you feel like you would like, because those are all things I think we would genuinely love to make.
Oh yeah.
And right now, all we can do is kind of tease them, because we've been thinking about them for months. And once the world is in a place where we can safely do those things, we absolutely want to explore them. But in the meantime, if you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, we upload these podcasts there with some visual elements baked in for those who prefer their podcasts on YouTube. But yeah, it's youtube.com/redwebpod. So please hit us up there. It's just another outlet for you to consume our podcasts and any other future content we might make. But other than that, that's been the secret, Fredo.
Beautiful.
Man, we got to get over to San Francisco sometime soon.
Beautiful.
And, start digging around.
I know. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah.
Catch y'all later.
Until next week.
Bye-bye.